Okay, so this video is talking about completing the square. There's two elements to this that we're going to look at. One, and the first bit, is of course the process of completing the square. I'm going to teach you all about that, exactly how to do that. And then we're going to look at why. Why might we complete the square? What does it tell us, or what does it allow us to do or find out? Why would we do the process in the first place? Okay, so first of all, as I said, we're just going to concentrate on the process. Let's get our heads around the actual method and approach of completing the square, and then we'll talk about exactly why it's useful to us, or what pieces of information we can figure out from it. Okay, little recap. So we're talking about squares here. So let's take an expression to be squared. So x plus 2 all to be squared. Now, if we were to expand that, what would we get? Well, we'd get x plus 2 multiplied by itself, x plus 2. And then multiplying out the brackets, you take the first term multiplied by the second bracket, take the second term multiplied by the second bracket, or whatever way you multiply all these out. Multiplying for sure, make sure that you've got all the terms multiplied together. Plus 2x plus 2x, 2 times 2 is 4. And add your middle terms together, we get x squared plus 4x plus 4. So that is the expansion of that, okay? Now, there's a quick way of getting there, and that is, because the whole thing is being squared, you've obviously got to square the first bit, which is the x. So square the first, which is x squared, square the second bit, which is a positive 2. Squaring a positive 2, you're going to get positive 4. And then, of course, you're going to multiply these two together, and you're going to get 2x. And, of course, you're going to get that twice. So it's always double the product of the two. So multiplying the 2, that's what product means. Multiplying 2 by x, you get 2x. Double the product of the 2. 2 times 2x is 4x. So we're just going to do a little bit of practicing of going and expanding in that quick way. Okay? So take the following. X plus 5 all to be squared. Pause the video and expand. So square the first, square the second, and double the product of the 2. Well, the product of the 2 is multiply the 2, 5 times x, double that, and I've got 10x. So x squared plus 10x plus 25 is x plus 5 squared expanded. Okay, let's try another one. So 2x plus 3 all to be squared. Pause the video and expand that. Try to do it the quick way. So, square the first, so 2x all to be squared is 4x squared. Square the second, 3 times 3 is of course 9. Double the product of the 2, so 3 times 2x is 6x. Double that, of course, is 12x. So 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Okay, let's try another one. Expand for me 5x minus 1 all to be squared. Pause the video, see how you go. So squaring the first, this time 5x by 5x is 25x squared. Minus 1 by minus 1 is a plus 1, of course. Double the product of the 2. Well, the product of the 2 is minus 1 times 5x, which is minus 5x. Double that is going to be minus 10x. So 25x squared minus 10x plus 1. Okay, we'll do one last one. And we'll take 4x minus 5, all to be squared. Pause the video and expand that. So squaring the first, 4x by 4x is 16x squared. Square the second, minus 5 by minus 5 is plus 25, of course. And the product of the 2 is minus 5 by 4x, which is minus 20x. You need double the product of the 2, of course, so minus 40x plus 25. 16x squared minus 40x plus 25. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the expansion. And what I want you to do is rewrite it as a square, okay? So knowing what you know already, doing the practice of the quick method, what must go in here? Well, first of all, that's square the first, square the second, and that's double the product of the 2, remember? So in order to have gotten x squared, inside must have been x. And in order to have gotten 9, that must have been a positive 3. And so does that work out then that we've got double the product of the 2? Yes. So x plus 3 all to be squared is x squared plus 6x plus 9 expanded. Okay, so we're going to try a few more of these. Okay, so try this one. X squared plus 8x plus 16. Okay, pause the video and now complete this square. So what's going in the brackets? Well, we must have an x. In order to get x squared, this is double the product of the two, which means the number then to get 16 when squared and double the product of the two here for the middle term must be plus 4. Okay, let's try another one. X squared minus 14x plus 49. Pause the video and complete the square. Okay, so this one, we're going to have x again to get x squared, and we're going to need obviously a 7 to get 49, but to get double the product of the two, it must be a minus 7x times 2, which gives you the minus 14x. So x minus 7 all to be squared is the answer. All right, let's try this one. 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Okay, pause the video and see how you get on with this one. Okay, so here, what have you squared to get 4x squared? It would be 2x by 2x, and to get a 9, of course, would be 3. So double the product of the two would have to be a plus. That would give you 6x. Double that product would be 12x, so we're right. 2x plus 3 all to be squared. Okay, all right, last one. I want you to complete the square for 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. Pause the video, see how you get on with this one. Okay, and so what we have is must be a 3x by a 3x to get 9x squared. To get a 1, I must have 1. To get a minus 6x, when you double the product of the two, it must be minus. So 3x minus 1 all to be squared is the answer. Okay, so try this. I want you to write the following in the form x plus a all to be squared, add on something else. Okay, so add on this b, whatever this value is here. Okay, so we're going to try this for x squared plus 4x plus 5. Okay, here's your first one. If you feel confident, pause the video and see how you get on with it. If not, take a look as I do one with you slowly, and then you'll probably be in a better position to do and practice the rest. Okay? Right, so the thing is, this isn't going to work out to be a perfect square, and I can see that straight away because 5 is not a square number. But I should be able to make a square out of some of it, and then either just add on or subtract, given that these values could be integers, something at the end. So the first thing that you have to go on here are the first two terms here. So you know to get the x squared, you've got to have an x, and we know that from this already. And then this, of course, is double the product of the two. So the square involved must have something to do with half this middle term. If this middle term has to be double the product of these two, then we're going to get the value for this by halving this and getting an idea of what that value would be. So halving the middle term would be 2x. We've got the x from here, which means it's got to be something to do with x plus 2 all to be squared. Now I'm writing it over here because I like to do a little aside here just to see what am I dealing with at this square, and then I'll be able to figure out my final answer in a better way. So I know it's got to be something to do with x plus 2 all to be squared because that's what's going to give me the first two terms. Square the first, square the second, double the product of the two. So if I did square this out, I would get plus 4. So the expansion of x plus 2 all to be squared is x squared plus 4x plus 4. Now that's very close to what I have here. The only difference is I need to, of course, add on an extra 1. I don't want a plus 4, I want a plus 5. So I can write this as the expansion of x plus 2 all to be squared. And if that gives me x squared plus 4x plus 4, all I need to do then is add 1 extra on. So the 4 plus 1 will make the 5 here. So that's the answer I'm looking for. Okay, so try this question. X squared plus 10x plus 30. Again, write it in this form. Pause the video and see how you get on with this. So again, we're going to look at the first two terms, and in particular the middle term. In order to get a 10x, if that's double the product of the two, again, I'm going to come over here, then I know it's got to have something to do with x plus 5 expanded. So what is x plus 5 expanded? It would be x squared plus, double the product of the two of course, 10x, and then squaring 5 would give me 25. Again, that's not what I want here, but it's not far off. So if I want to rewrite this as x plus 5 all to be squared, that's of course giving me x squared plus 10x plus 25. If I add on another 5 to that, the 25, add the 5 will give me the 30 that I'm looking for. Okay? Right, try this question, pause the video and see how you get on. So again, I know my middle term is 6x, so we must be dealing with the expansion x plus 3, because x plus 3 squared would give me square the first, double the product of the two, square the second, of course, would give me 9. Now that's not what I want just 5. So if I'm talking about the square x plus 3 to be squared, and that gives me x squared plus 6x plus 9, what would I need to do now to get it to 5? Well, I'd need to take away, in this case, 4. So 9 take away 4 will give me the 5. All right, try this question, x squared minus 14x plus 50. Pause the video, see how you get on. All right, so I'm talking about minus 14x, so I know it's going to have something to do with the expansion x minus 7 all to be squared, because square the first, double the product of the two gives me the x squared minus 14x, which is what I want. But of course, squaring the second would give me a plus 49. I don't want a plus 49, I want a plus 50. So writing this as a square, to get from 49 to 50, I would just add on 1. Okay, so this is getting a little bit more complicated now. This time I want you to write the following quadratics that I give you in the form a bracket x plus b all to be squared plus c, where a, b and c are values that are elements of the integers. Alright, so if you're feeling confident, press pause and give this one a go. Otherwise, go through this one with me as an example, and then hopefully you'll be in a position to do the rest of them yourself. So the key thing with this, of course, is I have this value pulled out of this bracket here. So that's kind of the first thing I'm going to want to do with this. And when I look at these numbers, 2 minus 20, 48, the number I can pull out straight away is 2. So then that would give me x squared minus 10x plus 24. So like before now, I'm just going to look at these two terms here, x squared minus 10x. And I'm going to come over here to the side, and I'm just going to consider then rewriting this as a square. This is the information that's going to help me put part of this into a square. So if I'm getting the minus 10x, I know I'm talking about the square x minus 5 all to be squared. Okay, so it's this and then something maybe added or subtracted. So let's see what this expansion gives me. This gives me, of course, x squared minus 10x, which is, of course, what I want. And that's giving me the first two bits there. But then double the product of the two, of course, is the minus 10x. Square the second will give me a positive 25. But, of course, I want a plus 24. So like before, just in your brackets. Now, just be careful. You already have these brackets here, and now I'm going to sub this in for this expansion. So in brackets again, I'm going to put the square, x minus 5 all to be squared, and of course that gives me x squared minus 10x plus 25, but I just want plus 24, so I would want to minus 1, so that the 25 take away 1 gives me the 24 in the brackets which I want. Now I'm not quite there yet. What I need to do now is just multiply in by this 2. Now when I'm multiplying in by the 2, all I'm going to do with the first term is leave it like that, 2 times x minus 5 all to be squared. I'm not going to expand it any further because that's the format that I'm looking for, but 2 times minus 1 now is minus 2. So my value for c in this case is minus 2. That is now in the form I am looking for. Okay, so try this next question. Rewrite 3x squared plus 12x plus 18 in this form. So in other words, completing the square, writing in the form a bracket x plus b all to be squared plus c, where a, b and c are an element of the integers. Okay, so now we've gone through one more thoroughly. Let's see if you can do this one on your own. Pause this and see how you get on. So the first thing we're going to do is find the a, so we can pull out the 3 in this case, and we get x squared plus 4x plus 6. And now we are going to consider the x squared plus 4x plus 6. So these two terms are key. Let's do a little aside. What's the square going to be? It must be x plus 2 all to be squared. That's what's going to give us x squared, square the first, double the product of the two, 4x. That's going to give me these two terms, which is what I want. And then, of course, adding on square the second, which is 4. Of course, I don't want 4, I want 6. So instead, open your brackets, I will write the square, x plus 2 all to be squared. That gives me x squared plus 4x plus 4, but I'm going to add on an extra 2, so the 4 add the 2 will give me the 6. So now we're going to multiply in by that 3, and I've got 3 by x plus 2 all to be squared, leave that like that, and 3 times 2 is 6. So there's my final answer. Okay, try this question. 4x squared minus 8x minus 10. Write that in that form. Now, first off, what I'm going to say is just, you can see straight away when you attempt to pull out the 4 so that you've got at least an x on its own, or x squared on its own, first of all, it's not going to work out really nicely here because of that minus 10. But that doesn't matter. That might happen, and that's perfectly fine if it does. You'll be left with a fraction to deal with, but your method will still be the same. You will still analyze it in the same way. It's just you're going to then analyze how to get from here to here by adding or subtracting what. Just because this value now in here might be a fraction of some sort, you're still going to be able to add or subtract something to this in order to get it, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to put that there, pause it, see how you get on, try it yourselves first, and then you can watch the solution. So when I pull out the 4, I get x squared and then minus 2x. And of course, pulling the 4 out of minus 10, or in other words, 4 times what would give me a minus 10? It would have to be minus 10 over 4. So I'm going to write it like that for myself. Okay? So the next step again is to look at the x squared minus 2x. So let's see what square would give me those first two terms anyway. And it would be, of course, x minus 1 all to be squared. X minus 1 all to be squared would be square the first, double the product of the 2, minus 2x. That's what I want. And then, of course, square the second would be plus 1. So now, open your brackets. We're going to input in this square, x minus 1 all to be squared. That gives me x squared minus 2x plus 1. But what would I have to do to that 1 in order to get actually minus 10 over 4? Now, if you prefer to think of that as a decimal, by all means, go ahead and do that. Minus 10 over 4 is minus 2.5. So if I have 1 from the expansion of this, 1 take away what would give me minus 2.5. That's what I need to consider. So 1 take away what would give me a minus 2.5. And the answer, of course, is minus 3.5, or 7 over 2. Again, deal with fractions or decimals, whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay, and again, don't be worried that you've got a fraction in here. It doesn't matter. We're going to multiply this out now in the same way as we do before, and 4 times the x minus 1 all to be squared, we leave like that, and 4 times minus 3.5 is, of course, minus 14. And that is your answer. Okay, so try this one. 2x squared plus 24x plus 67. Let's write this in this format. Okay, pause the video, see how you get on. Okay, so pulling out the 2, I'm getting x squared plus 12x plus 67 over 2. Okay, 2 times 67 over 2 will give you the 67. All right, so the two terms we're going to look at now, of course, is the x squared plus 12x. So come over here. What square will we be dealing with to be able to get these two terms? It must be an x plus 6 squared. That would be square the first, double the product of the 2 would be the 12x, so we're on the right track. And of course, square the second would be 36. So I have 36 and I need to get to 67 over 2. So open up your brackets, put in your square. So 36 to get to 67 over 2, and 67 over 2, again, if you prefer to think of the decimal is 33.5. So if I have 36, how do I get to 33.5? I would need to subtract 2.5, or 5 over 2. So now multiplying these out, I'm going to get 2 times x plus 6 all to be squared, and of course 2 times minus 2.5 is minus 5. And there's my answer. Okay, so last type for the process of completing the square. I want you to write the following in the form b squared minus, and in brackets, x plus a all to be squared. So we're going to first of all try minus x squared plus 6x minus 5. This is the first time where we've had a minus x squared. Okay, pause the video if you think you'd like to make a stab at this yourselves. Otherwise, listen along and we'll go through this one thoroughly. So, a bit like before when we had something else in front of the x squared, we're going to pull out the minus, okay, straight away. So that would leave me with x squared minus 6x plus 5. And so if you multiplied in by that minus, then you would get this back again, okay? Then we're going to analyze here in the brackets. And of course, we have this x squared minus 6x, which is what's going to give us a little hint what to look at here to complete the square. So again, come over here and consider what would give you an x squared minus 6x. So we know it would have to be an x minus 3 all to be squared. And of course, x minus 3 all to be squared would give you the x squared minus 6x, which is what you have here. But it would also give me a plus 9, but I only need 5. So in the brackets then, if I'm going to put in the square, x minus 3 all to be squared, that gives me a 9. How do I get it down to 5? And the answer, of course, is I would have to subtract 4. Okay, so now what we do is multiply in by that minus, and I have minus the x minus 3 all to be squared, and I have minus 4, which is a plus 4. And now just to write it exactly like I have it here, I would just switch this around, put the 4 first, minus the x minus 3 all to be squared. So we have it very similar now, and now it's just a case of writing this as a power. So 4 is the same as 2 squared minus x minus 3 all to be squared. So the a is a minus 3, and the b is a 2. And that is your answer. Okay, so try this question then. For minus x squared minus 10x minus 9, put it in the form b squared minus x plus a all to be squared. See how you get on with this. Pause the video. Okay, again, we're going to take out the minus, and that will, of course, change the signs here and here. And we're going to look in the brackets here for x squared plus 10x and come over to one side and think what square would give me x squared plus 10x as the first two terms. And the answer, of course, is x plus 5 all to be squared. That would give me square the first, double the product of the two, square the last would be 25. So that would give me a 25, but I just want a 9. So when I'm putting that square back in the brackets, I have x plus 5 all to be squared. That gives 25, but I want 9, so get from 25 to 9, I would take away 16. Okay, so now multiplying in by that minus, I've got minus the x plus 5 all to be squared, and minus 16 is plus 16. All right, write that round so we have it more looking like this, 16 minus x plus 5 all to be squared. And to get this as a square, of course, to get it exactly in that form, it would be 4 squared minus x plus 5 all to be squared. So b is 4 and your a is 5.